Welcome back to another Reddit video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. What's your most NSFW experience at work? I worked overnight as a convenience store clerk when I was 20. A drunk woman came in and was thirsty, but had no money. I offered her coffee for free, since it's not inventoried, or some tap water, but she didn't want them. She wanted apple juice. She offered to flash me for some apple juice. I said sure. She went off camera and lifted her top and bra for like 3 seconds. 3 great seconds. She went and took 2 apple juices. I didn't mind. She left happy. I was happy. It was a good night and all it cost was 2 apple juices on my tab. I was working at some big Canadian coffee chain when I was 16 and there was an annual meeting that the manager was organizing. I guess she couldn't find a babysitter for her son, so she brought him along. The problem with this is that he was actually a man in his 20s with the mental capacity of a toddler. The guy was easily a head taller than me and would wander onto the floor behind the counter, would come back into the kitchen where I was baking donuts, and would simply take it and eat it in front of me with a shit-eating grin. Also, despite acting like a toddler, he apparently had a sex drive and decided that pulling up women's shirts and grabbing boobs and butts was a good way to pass the time. So here I am, a 16-year-old trying to do my goddamn job when the manager's 21-year-old mentally challenged son just decided to very firmly grope my butt. I turned to him and told him to not do that and to not touch me. Why? He asked me. I'm a man. Yeah, I'm glad I'm out of there. The manager was a miserable old woman anyway. Not very sexual, I guess, but when I first started working in the hotel industry, a Delta flight attendant took a liking to me and kissed me on the mouth unexpectedly when she was very drunk. After that, she went out for a smoke, and I told the bartender that she needed to be cut off, especially because I knew their crew had a morning flight in 5 hours. She came in and went back to the bar, and watching from afar I saw the bartender dump her beer and then point at me when she got pissed. I began helping a VIP guest get up to his room thinking that there was no way she could hop in the elevator before we ascended. False. She jumped in through the gap in the doors Indiana Jones style and screamed at me about how I ruined her night, all the while holding her middle finger up an inch from my face. She got out on a random floor, and after the doors closed, this Fortune 500 CEO guest just nonchalantly asked, "What did you do? Get her pregnant?" Long story short, she was so drunk she couldn't remember her room number, caused a huge inconvenience for security, and wasn't listed as a guest at all on any of the rooms we had because of their company contract. She eventually made it to the room in the early hours of the morning, but because of her behavior our hotel property had to contact Delta, and I'm assuming she was let go or relocated because I never saw her again with our regular flight crew. To answer the question, it's probably a toss-up between that experience or the time that a mother offered me $500 to do a strip show for her daughter's bachelorette party. I sell mattresses and back. When I first started I had a woman come in that looked straight out of Jersey Shore. I built some rapport and, based on her needs, recommended she try a bed. Instead of just laying on the bed like a normal human being, she proceeded to climb in the bed on all fours. With her ass facing me, she looked over her left shoulder back at me and said, "I feel like I could get a good freak on in this bed." Being new I wasn't really sure how to respond, so I just said, "Yep, I'm sure you could." The other night on a graveyard shift at my place of work I was going from the front office to the kitchen to put some dishes away. To get to the kitchen I decided to take the shortcut through the employee lounge. I opened the door and briskly hopped up a few stairs and heard the squeaking of someone getting up from a leather couch seat we have in the room. A coworker of mine seemed particularly shocked and was standing there, breathing heavily with a flushed face and neck. I asked how she's doing, and, while adjusting her blouse, she said fine, just waiting for some stuff copies to finish printing. I said okay, playing dumb, and went to the kitchen. On the way back to the front I stopped by the copy machine and saw no copies being made, and I'm quite sure I walked in on my coworker masturbating at 4 AM. When I was 18 I was doing IT work for a small financial services company / accounting firm. Basically I was converting all of their paper files into electronic files and doing IT troubleshooting in the office. One of the bookkeepers was about 35, but pretty sexy, and she kept telling me she had trouble logging in from home, so I kept insisting she should bring her laptop into work, but she never did. Eventually I went to her apartment to fix a simple issue, but she told me her laptop was at work. I was really annoyed until she started blowing me. This continued as daily head in the filing room and pounding it out in the stairwell till I got fired when rumors spread because she used to hook up with one of the managing partners and he got mad about it. Best job I ever had. I used to set the scanner to run on ultra high scans, so a folder used to take 30 minutes to scan. I got paid to sit in front of a computer and watch Netflix while occasionally scanning folders and frequent get your dick sucked breaks. This happened to a co-worker of mine while we taught together at an inner city high school. She went to the copy room one day and found two male students prison pounding each other. As she turned on the light and saw what was going on, they stopped, pulled up their pants, ran out of the room, and one smacked the papers she was holding out of her hand to stop her from following them. She didn't recognize them, and we didn't have cameras, but one of them left their book bag in the room which helped her identify them. Two things stuck out to me about this event. The first was that this woman was truly one of the kindest, most benevolent for the children type people this could have happened to. The second was that the kid giving it was a class bully who called other guys bad things all the time yet was giving it to one of the loudest, proudest gay kids in the school. Worked for a lawyer in a shared office with a few other attorneys. One of the attorneys, Albert, was a grumpy narcissistic asshole. Another one of the attorneys had a young female assistant named Isabel. We hit it off and got drinks after work a couple times. She had a boyfriend at the time, but she told me she had been planning to break up with him for a while, and it seemed like something could definitely happen between us. The asshole lawyer, who was about 20 years older than Isabel, took her to dinner, presumably as a professional guidance thing, but tried to kiss her. She was not having it. A couple weeks later, after she broke up with her boyfriend, we had sex in Albert's storage room on top of his old case files. Hi, I'm an EMT in the Boston area and I just wanted to share this experience with you cause it's kind of funny / weird / sad. So it starts as a typical 911 call. An elderly female fell, and there is a possible head wound. We arrive on scene to find fire is already there and inside, so we proceed right in. The old woman lives alone and fell, hit her head, and cut it in the process and passed out. She had woken up, found her head was bleeding, and crawled to a phone to call her granddaughter for help. It was the granddaughter who called 911. The base of her walls looked like a horror movie, her fingers leaving bloody streaks down the hall where she had crawled. PT lived and made it home fine, so the scene was not great. We find the grandmother and start care, standard stuff. However, the granddaughter is there too, and she is just flirty as hell, and not subtle about it. She was hiking up her dress past her cuff lower extremities and towards her lower abdomen, and she wasn't wearing any underwear. Also, the granddaughter was in her late 20s. I did my best to ignore her, but she was right there in my face. She was flashing myself, my partner and the 3 other firemen, while her grandmother was being backboarded and collared, bleeding, right in front of her. While working for a major company, I was working in a section of the building that should have been closed off, but my job function was overlooked, and there was nowhere else to go. Basically a giant warehouse with a small office on the other side of it. Since the constructions was going on my side of the building, I would enter through one of the side doors and immediately go to my office and sleep with the lights off. I had a hard hat and a high-vis vest, same kind as construction, for lunches so people would not question it. One day I leave for lunch and come back to find out that the construction crews accidentally removed the support structure for the HVAC unit on the roof. It crashed through the roof and destroyed part of that small office. After that I used one of the guest computers in the other side of the building to pretend to work. Used to work at a restaurant in TX called Jim's. I was in high school and just got kicked out of the house for being a little shit and taking my aunt's car to see this chick in the middle of the night. Anyway, I had to make ends meet to pay for rent and food, so I started working the late shifts the restaurant would offer. There was a girl there who would only work those shifts because her boyfriend would work during the day and she needed the car to get to work. One day she showed up like 2 hours late and she looked pissed off. I overheard her telling the manager her BF wouldn't let her use the car, so she had to take the bus after a huge fight. Fast forward to the end of the shift, which was around 1 AM. She was calm now, and the place was dead, so we are just standing around. Since she came in last, she would be the one to close the store, but since it was after the buses stopped, she asked me for a ride. I said no problem. She said she would make it up to me. The store closes, and I'm waiting in my car for her to come out. The manager stayed to do paperwork. She gets in the car and just asks me if I ever had a BJ. I had several up until this point, but still tell her no. She grabs my dick and starts massaging it till it's hard, and then takes it out and starts sucking it. She did not have a gag reflex either, because I check, or maybe my dick is just too small. So I come and zip up. I then say, well, where am I taking you? She said, don't worry, my BF will be here in a minute. So I took off. When she got out, women are freaking ruthless. I used to work at a lab at my former university. Beside the lab was my office, my boss's office, which you had to walk through mine to get to, and a storage room with biological equipment connected to my office. One day I was working late, 9 PM, and my girlfriend was in the area, so she stopped by. Anyway, things end up getting hot and heavy in my office. At one point I have her sitting on the desk, pants off, and we are going at it. I hear someone coming down the hall taking their keys out. Now this is the only locked door in the corridor, so I know where they're headed. We immediately stop. I turn my monitor off, and we get into the storage room as fast as possible, pants in hand. Since I'm only wearing a condom on my bottom half, we go around the corner to the darkest area of the storage room. The room is an L, so you would need to take about 2 steps in to see us. I hear someone start rummaging around in my boss's office, then walk back into my office. All I can think is, freaked on, come in here. Next thing you know, the storage room door is being unlocked. They step in and are about 6 feet from us now. Without turning the light on, they grab something from a shelf closest to the door and leave. The next morning my boss asks me how late I worked, because she came back around 9 o'clock to grab something, and the light was still on. I was in the introductory meeting for the new director our department. Everyone from our team, some project managers and the director of HR were in the room. He started his slid show and all quickly realized it was the wrong PPT. It was porn. The first slide that came up was of a dude who had just finished on a chick. Close-up of the girl covered in cum and a penis. We all sat in stunned silence for a few moments before the newbie frantically tried do something. He was in full panic mode and just fumbled around for an even longer period of time before someone finally walked up to the projector and turned it off. He mumbled some apologies and we all awkwardly filed out of the room. We looked back in time to see the HR director close the conference room door, just the two of them. Guy walks into my store wearing a ratty old bathrobe, one of the shorter ones that comes down just to around the knees. He comes up to my till with a soda and brings a fistful of change out of the robe's pocket. While counting out coins, he casually mentions, "I'm doing my laundry." Then with a sly nod, crotchward and a grin, adds, "All of it." Speechless, I take the money and put it in the till. I turn back with his receipt, just in time to see him fumble his coins and drop a bunch on the ground. Yes, he bent over right in front of me to pick them up. No, he was not lying about doing all of his laundry. No, there is not enough eye bleach in the world for the things I saw at that store. One time I was standing on top of an 18-foot ladder, actually on the top of the ladder, not on a step, but on the flat apex part that says, "Do not step," and I accidentally cut into a live wire above my head. My intern unplugged it from the wall so I could take down a hanging light fixture, and it turned out he unplugged the wrong one. Dull wire cutters in my Leatherman didn't completely sever it, so the electricity coursing through my hand and arm made the muscles lock down, and I couldn't let go of the tool too. I don't know how I didn't fall. When I told my mom about this, I said, "And that's the closest I ever came to dying." She said I came much closer growing up, but was unaware of it. Entered into a long-term BDSM situation with a co-worker. She was the dom, I was the sub. What brought it all about? Rihanna's S&M song, which played on the radio during a long work-related trip. Thank you, Rihanna. Fantasies came true and lasted a good 4 years. Never discovered at work, cause the woman was a quiet Mennonite good girl you'd never expect. We also had another woman in our office who was caught having sex with a policeman in the building after hours. So that deflected quite a bit of attention away from us. Like and subscribe for more Reddit videos.